I believe it's safe to say the evidence is in, and that the United States can finally abandon the pretense that it is a Christian nation. For most of us, this isn't news. That since its inception, America has demonstrated many of the same strengths and character flaws as other colonial Western nations. But if COVID 19 has done anything, it has revealed that the US brand of Christianity doesn't look anything like Jesus. Take up your cross. There's a point in the Gospels when Jesus reveals he's going to die. Peter promptly rebukes him. After all, Jesus can't die. They put all their hope in him as the Messiah, and they expect him to deliver them from Roman oppression. Jesus tells Peter to knock it off. But then he follows up with these words: whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. And this is found in Matthew 16:24 through 25. Christians sum up Jesus' words here with the phrase, dying to self. They love the term and use it often, but for the most part, it's a poetic abstraction, a form of spiritual idealism. It's a difficult conviction to hold when your cultural ethos focuses on your individual right to pursue happiness. In the incarnation, Jesus laid aside his deity to identify the humanity, which found in Philippians 2, and at Calvary, he laid down his human life to make reconciliation possible. In both actions, laying aside his deity and taking up his cross, he renounced his rights. In a culture and economy that operates on consumption and acquisition, it's difficult to convince Christians to renounce anything. In fact, quite often, when American Christians are asked to give up something for the sake of others, it's interpreted as persecution. One doesn't have to search hard for stories about churches who continue to meet against the recommendation of authorities, even when it put people at risk. Don't tread on me. Christianity in America is so entangled with patriotism and exceptionalism. When asked to shelter in place, Christians don't think it's odd to deck themselves out in G.I. Joe costume, complete with AR-15s, to storm a government building and demand their rights. But at the same time, they're unflinching in their support for authority being misused against others. When an unarmed black man or woman is shot and killed on camera, they instantly make excuses on behalf of authorities. That can look like trotting out on an old mugshot to prove that person's terrible character, or simply pointing out that they got themselves killed by not being obedient enough. But when asked to stay home, patriots have no problem grabbing their guns and defying orders. The mixture of Christianity and Americanism is a troubling tincture in enabling people to cite Romans 13 to get others to obey authority while they stock up weapons to fight off potentially tyrannical government. Any religion that demands that others take up their cross while we take up our sword is not Christianity. It's strange, but nothing reveals the rot at the center of American Christianity like the response people have had to wearing masks. It requires zero sacrifice to put a mask on, but that's still too much of an ask for American Christians. Mask wearing is really the perfect litmus test for self-denial. It's something we do for others. My mask protects me. No, not me. My mask protects you. And your mask protects me. That's the reality. It's not only a legitimate way to stop the spread of germs, but it also communicates our care for others. So when a store like Costco or Trader Joe's refuses to allow someone without a mask, it's to protect their employees, who aren't getting paid what they deserve, by the way, and other shoppers. They're asking people to take the health of others seriously. Because the choice to wear a mask doesn't communicate that you are that you are okay with getting sick. It communicates you're okay with getting others sick. It's such a low bar for denying oneself. And yet, there are people all over the country who refuse this small act of solidarity. Their discomfort and inconvenience is too big of an ask. Following Jesus requires sacrifice. Jesus asks us to take up our cross and follow him. Follow him looks like self-sacrifice. He is our model, and we are his followers. I can imagine many Christians that are listening, or that will be listening, will likely say, Jesus chose to make a sacrifice. I'm being expected to. I should have the freedom to choose how to carry my cross. Interesting, isn't it? Let's not forget that Jesus suffered the indignity of an unfair trial in a kangaroo court. The Sanhedrin was looking for an excuse to kill him. His life was taken from him. His attitude of self-sacrifice was a preparation for final act of a genuine sacrifice. He was prepared to make, but it wasn't like he walked into Pilate's office, slammed 3 nails on the desk, and asked to be crucified. He was ready for the ultimate sacrifice, but he didn't want it. He prayed for God to spare him his fate. Read Matthew 26:38 through 40. Following this example, every one of the disciples stoically endured horrible treatment from officials and their countrymen, but they had renounced expectation to be treated fairly. They didn't take up swords and demand their rights. They modeled themselves after their King, Jesus Christ. American Christianity makes salvation a personal commodity. It's something you acquire through invocation. Say the right prayer and you're in. It places certain social and moral expectations on us, but it doesn't infringe upon our liberty. No one can place expectations upon us. It's an insurance policy we purchase that allows us to pursue the American dream without fear of our eternal future. We like to identify ourselves as a Christian nation, a city on a hill. But think about it for a minute, just for a minute. What is it that separates America from every other nation on earth? We've become an epicenter for a disease that has killed well over 130,000 people, your fellow American citizens. And we are the only country that would rather go to war with our local government to protect our individual freedom than make sacrifice for the greater good. It's taken a pandemic to see the gulf between historic Christianity and its American counterpart. All it took was an expectation of community responsibility to tear off the mask and reveal its true face. So the ask to wear a mask is probably the hardest thing that American Christians have to do. And many of them will not do it. I have seen the same individuals who go to church on a Sunday morning, a Saturday evening, Wednesday evening, in Columbus, Ohio, with the AR-15s, their handguns, marching, chanting, because they are not able to go get a haircut. They're not able to go out for a dinner in whatever restaurant they would prefer. And at the same time, they are not willing to wear a mask because it infringes on their rights. Who's right? The right to protect other people, the right to show that you care for other people? That's not who Jesus calls us to be. And so for American Christian, the evangelicals, you are on a path that is just not what Jesus Christ would ask or has asked. And so I challenge us all to be like Jesus. Take up your cross, put on your mask, and follow him.